Electrocast.
TaxAct knows filing taxes can be confusing, so we have live experts on hand who can help answer any questions you may have. Questions like, can I claim my SUV as my home office if I answer work emails in my car? If I adopted 12 dogs this year, can I list them as dependents? And, am I doing this right or am I doing this very, very wrong? Our experts have the answers to those questions and many others. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
This episode is brought to you by Fandango. People say fans are too distracted these days, but the truth is, when a great movie hits the screen, you show up, you stay glued, invested, part of the story. And without fans like you, there'd be no cinema magic, no shared moments. So head to Fandango.com to get tickets, stream, or rent or buy top movies and series. Fandango loves fans.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris and I'm here with my older brother.
West Side. Wait, what's a better Holes nickname?
Lizard Breath.
Okay.
Today we're talking a movie from 2003. Can it be? From novella to screen, Holes. Introducing Shia LaBeouf. This was his first, major film. That's wild. You had recommended, Wes, Holes to me as a suitable audiobook for the girls to listen to on this summer's road trip. Well, they couldn't wait, so we started the audiobook and we worked our way through it on rides to and from school, and they loved it. They didn't want it to be over, for one. Then they couldn't wait to watch the film. And we watched the film. It really was this satisfying culmination of this study and adaptation.
Ready for the title I came up with?
What?
Nick Hole Boys.
The Disney version of Nickel Boys?
Disney's Dig Hole Boys. You see, you're all like, oh, the girls loved it, blah, blah, blah. We're here to talk about a 2003 classic, but yesterday you yelled at me.
During an interview style?
Yeah, what was the problem with Holes?
I was like, hey, I need some audiobook recommendations. And you were like, Holes. And I was like, for the girls, safe for the girls. And you were like, yeah, Holes. I think you also recommended Project Hail Mary. Holes, this wholesome story about a juvenile detention center with killer lizards.
Wholesome.
And racial murder, race-induced murder, and tragic love stories and criminal outlaws and stuff. What?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to throw that in. Is it okay to murder Sam out of racism, but to just be like, yay, Kissin' Kate is off running her revenge storyline?
No, she was an outlaw. They were like, what's an outlaw? And I was like, someone who behaves outside of the law? Where does that name come from?
What's an outlaw? Man, that's pretty cute.
Not to mention, all the abuse that Mr. Sir has to endure at the hands of the warden.
Oh, man. I thought he was dead when she claws him with the venom nails.
Yeah.
And I realized that this movie came first, but not a lot first. That scene eerily reminiscent of the Bud L. Driver Kill Bill scene in Kill Bill Volume 2.
What happens there?
That is when she goes to pick up so-and-so's Hanzo sword and something bad happens to him.
No spoiler.
Right.
Do you think Quentin Tarantino was inspired by Holes?
I don't think so, because Holes, well, maybe the book, but Holes 2003 and Kill Bill, as I recall, 2004. I think it's kind of unlikely, but it's possible. And making this a great segue to help the girls ease from Disney's Holes to Tarantino's body of work.
I think we're still a ways away.
Oh, yeah?
So what did you think about the casting choice for Zero?
Fine. He was great. I think kind of diminutive, even though now I saw a reunion of sorts where they shook hands and Shia has graying hair at his temples and on the side of his head, and he's much taller than Shia is. So I guess he was just young.
Really?
He was appropriately aged as Zero, being younger than Stanley Yelnats.
So Cleo Thomas, born 89 in Anchorage, Alaska, stands at a healthy 6'1".
Yeah. I mean, don't we all?
Wow. He seemed, if he was appropriately aged, then Shia's character seemed a little old, no?
How old was he at the time? Because he's definitely an adult looking. I know some of the kids, some of the boys were as old as like 22. And I get it. Shia's young and we've seen him grow since then. So he does look young, but he is a pretty old, like he's a broad-chested, strapping kind of kid. I'd put him at probably 17.
Interestingly, his personal details leave out his year of birth on IMDb. He is 5'9" and a quarter. I always think it's so funny when they include those quarter inches.
Oh, he's taller than average, 5'9" being the average.
Is it? A quarter inch taller than the average?
Look, it all counts. In overall height and wiener length, it all matters.
Did you know that Shia LaBeouf's married to and has a kid with Mia Goth?
Yeah, as of the time of this recording, maybe they're married, but I'm not sure.
So 1986. So he is 3 years older than Zero. And it shows. I think at that age, 3 years makes a big difference. So questionable casting.
Is it questionable?
See, the thing is, they're both good. Kind of an odd couple. Shia LaBeouf. So technically, he did some Disney Channel stuff.
Oh, yeah. It was, I didn't watch it, but he always, Even Stevens, I think, right?
And he was an Even Stevens, so that was a recurring character. 65 episodes of Even Stevens.
Yeah, I think that might have been his
Holes.
breakthrough of sorts, like, not just in entertainment.
Yeah. So they're an odd couple. They're both good in their role.
When he's under Mary Lou's boat, when he's under Mary Lou, under Sam's boat, and he pulls him out and gives him a hug, it's very Big Brother because he's so small.
Yeah. It makes it very realistic that he can carry him up the hill. Although, do they omit that in the movie?
No.
Oh, he has to carry him because that's how he breaks the curse.
Yep. And then in turn, and then Zero saves his life with a shovel and gouging his hands.
Oh, yeah. So the backstory of Holes, the storyline with the no good, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather, kissing Kate, Madame Zeroni, the curse, etc.
Etc. Sam. I need you to give Sam his props.
Sam the Onion Man. Is that all a cheat?
So when I read, so this is one of Kelly Ray's favorites, or one that's really close to her. She got up at one point and I typically paused and she was like, now this movie, you don't have to pause. I know this one backwards and forwards, which is something I usually say. And she's like, wait, you're not even going to pause when I get up during a movie. So I'll start reciting the dialogue along with the characters as it's going while I'm in the kitchen. But this one she's really close to. So we read the book, watched the movie, and I can't shake this feeling that my initial introduction to Holes was, this is kind of random. Like, what are they doing? They're digging holes, and Mr. Sir is kind of random. What's happening? And then it kind of comes together when you finally understand, like Stanley does pretty late, that the warden is all like trying to find the treasure, and that's why methodically they're digging holes. Then it kind of comes together, but I still felt it was kind of loose and kind of random. And they have nicknames that are random and fun. And it really all does tie together. Of course, Sam and the onions and the Mary, like I didn't realize this viewing, I was like, I don't think I caught the first time that when he finds Zero under this random boat, that's Sam's boat. This is the lake where he was shot. I didn't forge those watcher kind of connections where I was leaning forward and paying attention.
That was the sploosh boat. That was all of the death sploosh.
No, I get it, but maybe I wasn't locked in, which made me appreciate Holes this time around as more connected than I thought. I think I can see some of the children's book reverse engineering. It has this sense of history, and it's not just random out in the desert. There's a mystery around what they're doing, what they're looking for. There's some horror and terror, but there's lots of I was like, why big Daddy's Thumb Mountain or whatever. That's so random. But it harkened back to Zeroni's curse and all that stuff that I think was done really well. So if there was a cheat, like as an author, I now have to invent all these nicknames for the boys, and we see how Stanley gets his nickname. But that was Zero covering for Zeroni, which is a revelation late stage. And then you kind of get it. And I was like, oh, that works. I think that there is, social commentary, cultural issues. It's like soft teaching. So it's like history and mystery. It's like it was mys-torious, this book that came together in the way that some of my favorite more adult stories do. It all tied together super nicely in a way that I did not feel it was a cheat really at all. Maybe it's because there was actually held some discovery for me this time around.
I would love to know the author's process. What's his name?
It was Louis Sachar.
I would love to know Louis Sachar's process. What came first, the legend or the story, or did they come together simultaneously? I have to say that the most enjoyable part of this experience for me was not reading or listening to the audiobook, was not watching the movie necessarily, but the moments in time where the girls started piecing the legend together with the story. And who would kind of come to that revelation first? And where would it come? Would it come in the audiobook experience? Would it come in the movie experience? Some of the revelations actually came pretty late. I don't think that the girls put it together that the yellow-spotted lizards didn't bite them until the movie, which is at the tail end of the entire experience.
That they didn't bite them, or the reason they didn't get bitten?
The reason that they didn't get bitten, which of course is because Stanley and Zero had been eating onions for the last 3 or 4 days.
And that was just a fortuitous pairing. The fact that they ate the onions out of pure chance because they needed food, and because Mr. Yelnats Stan III was inventing this shoe deodorizing thing.
What did the onions have to do with the foot deodorizer?
The combination of peaches and onions, as I recall, was the method that he was like, smell it. And she's like, I don't smell anything. And he's like, right? Exactly. But that didn't have anything to do with Zero and Stanley eating the onions.
No, I don't think so. I think it happened pretty much simultaneously.
So I guess maybe it's safe to assume because they were eating the sploosh and they ate the onions, that combination threw off or eliminated their human scent, their like prey scent, the scent that would stink up shoes.
I don't think it masked their scent. I think that the lizards just don't like onion.
Man. And even though the lizards are basically dinosaurs, or maybe birds are dinosaurs, but the lizards, their visual acuity wasn't based on movement, because Zero and Stanley moved all around and they just hopped off because they couldn't. They were like, this rock is moving or whatever, but we're still not going to bite it.
Yeah, at the end they weren't even cautious in the film. They just like threw off. Threw off.
He like jumps out of the hole and the lizards are like, oh, let me get out of your way.
That's because there were no lizards. But it had to have happened, the invention had to have happened early because the attorney that comes to rescue Stanley and eventually Zero represented his dad and his dad's invention. She was a patent attorney.
Oh, okay. So this is all kind of, I feel like afterthoughty. So if Holes contained, the book or the movie contained cheats, I think it's in service of an attorney coming in on Stanley's behalf. Well, why do they have attorney? Oh, because his dad made this breakthrough. I can see the reverse engineering, or at least I suspect I can, but what a great scenario for your kids to be able to have a story that's kind of sprawling, historically based in a way, at least for their purposes, and not laid out all before them so that they can piece it together in a kid's book of the connection of people across 100 years and the revelation, even to me in my old age, that lake and that boat, it was covered in water 100 years ago. It got so hot that it dried up everything, and the camp or whatever is like built on the bones of the lake, Deceptively
difficult, I think. People are always talking about, filmmakers and studio execs and stuff are always talking about the 4-quadrant movie, a movie that can appeal to, all the demographics in the audience, like the Pixar movies do, or at least did. But I think what makes Holes a movie that can appeal to adults is how tight it is. There's zero fat on this movie. It's super lean.
Zero also had zero fat.
Every character, every detail has story significance, and they almost always pay off, which I think makes it enjoyable. Obviously, the mystery piece makes it enjoyable too, because you can piece it together, you know, in my case, with my kids. But it's a really efficient story where everything kind of matters. And if you're not leaning forward and watching, it can deliver more for you when you watch the movie after having read the book, or vice versa. Or if you watch it again, as kids tend to love to do, watch things over and over and over again, it can still continue to kind of pay off as you peel back the layers of the onion.
The layers of the edible onion skin wrapped apple.
I was thinking about that too.
So as an executive, you wouldn't have given a note like, hey, maybe we should combine the characters of Mom and Mr. Sir?
No, I think that would have been overly efficient. The warden needs her minions. And you think that Mr. Sir and Mr. Pendanski are going to be different, that maybe Mr. Pendanski really cares about their rehabilitation, but he doesn't. Like, Mr. Pendanski's got it out for Zero. I don't know why, but he's so mean to him. So it's important to show the difference, but then also to show that they're kind of the same, that neither of them really have the boy's best interest in mind.
Yeah, he's pretty merciless.
And for the warden to kind of maintain a little bit of mystique, although I feel like she's revealed, Sigourney Weaver is revealed much earlier in the film than she is in the novel.
Really? I do not recall when, but in fact, for a less than 2 hours movie, 40 minutes in before we get a glimpse of the warden.
It seemed faster. Okay, so the movie, and I think the book to an extent, is bookended by this curse. Well, I guess there's multiple curses going on. In the town, what's it called?
Oh, Green Lake?
So in Green Lake, after Sam is murdered, rain stops falling. And after the no-good, pig-stealing great-great-grandpa fails to take Madame Zeroni up the mountain, the Yelnats family from there on is cursed. And then when the treasure is restored to Stanley, that somehow avenges for Sam's death and completes the Yelnats' obligation to the Zeroni family, and so both curses are lifted. Can you help me understand this? And also, does this make Holes magical realism?
Magical realism, I expect so, that your repercussions will echo, the actions you take in life will echo through eternity, gladiator style. It just, this town, this place out in the desert, what do you have except magical realism? So I think that Kate and the horrible misdeed that was done in her life that turned her bad had a sort of curse of her own, and the treasure not going to the warden or Mr. Sir and going back to its rightful owner, at least, invalidated her, whatever she set in motion. I thought that Zeroni was, and the curse and going up the hill was maybe the weakest part of a not so weak movie or story. It just seemed a little bit arbitrary, and I much more enjoyed the Kate stuff. I mean, maybe that would have been my note, is combine the curses, because it's confusing.
All right, last genre question. Is Holes a Western?
Yes, in fact, Kelly Ray's favorite Western. If there's a Western-style revolver worn outwardly on a cowboy's hip, then yes. And there's a shooting, and there's a riding. I don't think there was a roping. And there was romance, and a school teacher, and an outlaw, and shooting lizards, and drinking sploosh. This is a good movie for 6 Degrees of Whatever that we recently featured on an interview style. Like, there's a lot of people that pop up in this movie, and a good way to connect it, I suppose, with other movies and other Westerns. I don't know. It's separate. Most of the Westerns that I know and love don't feature a lot of magical realism or Shia LaBeouf.
So Tim Blake Nelson, famously in what Western?
In several Westerns, but noticeably he had the exact same thing where he wears his hat entirely too low, so it presses down the tips of his ears, in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, in which he plays the titular character.
And John Voight?
John Voight for a Western? I don't know that I would call Deliverance, your favorite, a Western. I don't know that I would call Midnight Cowboy a Western.
He wears cowboy boots and a cowboy hat.
Yeah, exactly. He is a cowboy, but it decidedly takes place in the East. Spoiler.
And Sigourney Weaver.
For Western? I don't know what that is.
I'd like to see like a Shia LaBeouf gangster Western.
Well, he was in, what was the Moonshine one with Tom Hardy?
Oh, yeah.
Lawless? Was that what that was?
Yeah.
But he'd be good. Going back to...
He's good in everything.
Oh, yeah, except for real lifing, it seems. Like, I think that his recent assault charges and arrest on Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras were because his marriage is busting up.
Oh, no.
And she accused him of domestic abuse and stuff. So Shia's having a tough time. That has nothing to do, the busted, broken down person on Bourbon Street with their knee on his head waiting for the authorities to show up, pressing his face into the, I'm sure, sparkling clean concrete of a New Orleans street, is a far cry from fresh face. He's actually a really good looking kid, like a cute kid in Holes. And even then, kind of a commanding presence.
And I know that the film adaptation has to move through the story even more quickly than the novella, but Stanley doesn't have the biggest arc, or at least this movie Stanley doesn't have as big an arc as book Stanley, because book Stanley arrives like timid, shy, weak, and then has to evolve into this more strapping, confident, strong kid who's capable of carrying another kid up a hill and capable of the drive to get to the top, in the life or death situation.
Yeah, it's a Marty McFly arc. Marty was confident. Marty was a musician. He just felt like that everyone was against him, that he was afraid he was going to be a loser. And they'd be like, get out of here, kid. You don't belong here. And then in the end, riches solves all.
What are you, Crispin Glover? Are you railing against the morality in Holes?
No, I like Holes. I like Back to the Future. I have no problem with it ending in vast riches. That's the Goonies ending. Spoiler.
Not a lot of cursing from these kids in Holes.
Nope, but it seemed like that would have been good. But this is very proudly Disney's Holes. This wasn't Touchstone. This wasn't Buena Vista.
Like the Dark Cauldron, Buena Vista?
Yeah, like Pretty Woman, Touchstone.
Mm-hmm.
But I am really interested in how you and particularly the girls approach this with like a fresh and open mind. That's fascinating because this is the one that swung me in favor of a story doesn't have to be dramatic to be tight. It can be more kids friendly or kids minded, about kids and sploosh and stealing sunflower seeds and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be gritty for it to be tightly constructed and admirable. And this maybe is a kid's movie that I did not watch as a kid, not until I was in my 40s, well into my 40s, that kind of broke that mold a little bit of what I thought that kids' movies were supposed to be. Mostly, as we had discussed, it was animated films that are, inconsequential to adults story-wise, but that have adult jokes thrown in and stuff that references that only adults would get. And I don't know that Holes really possessed a lot of that, except for, of course, the knowledge that these generations and everything you're doing, our entire family is influenced by our ancestors, the people from the past who in this case bear our name. You bear their names. And the reason that this town exists and the curse is like the curse of history, and how you really can't escape. Just because you think you understand a thing doesn't mean that you understand how your ancestors 100 years ago shaped the events and the course of your life. And so I found watching Holes, again, a different experience, no less pleasant.
How so different in your ripe old age?
It was like, okay, it's a kid's movie. Okay, it's random. Oh, okay, I see how they tied it in so it's justifiable that they're not just, take a bad boy, make him dig holes all day in the sun, turn him into a good boy. That's our philosophy. It's like that's a random philosophy, but it all held together. It's hard to understand how watching it this time, not having read the book again, I was able to pull it together based on the movie. When I had just read the source material and then saw the movie, how they would have by necessity have truncated it or condensed it. And yet this time I had a much better understanding of what they were going for, which was kind of an unexpected joy.
It might seem fluffy because it's like a kid's movie, but really the stakes are rather adult. It's life or death It's wrongful conviction, like injustice and oppression, curses and coming of age. There's a lot going on in Holes in what seems like on the surface a simple tale of a kid learning to navigate a juvenile detention situation.
In a way, Stanley was the adult, the parent to the clearly much younger Zero, right? Zero was a good digger, but didn't have a thought in his head, didn't have much direction or whatever, didn't know who his parents were, and Stanley kind of took care of him until it was time for Zero to reciprocate. Do you know what the most adult moment of Holes was for me, where I was like, oh, here Stanley is standing in for the adults?
When?
Do you think it was very parent-like for him to tell Zero, like, should you promise a hot fudge sundae at the top of God's thumb? And then being like, give them an onion and be like, it's a hot fudge sundae, eat it.
Such a good moment.
That's the most adult moment that I can think of. Holes. I feel like I didn't get it, despite reading the book. Got it second time around for the movie. Shia LaBeouf, at one point he said that Jon Voight was a mentor to him, but here it says that Jon Voight did indeed stay in character as Mr. Sir. He said he felt an enormous responsibility to really sell this character that he plays because it's so beloved, the source material, but he stayed in character between takes. And Shia had never seen that before, and I think he took inspiration from that. His dad got really annoyed, and so Honey Dad had an altercation with Jon Voight on set. It seems like Honey Dad is the cause of a lot of problems because, according to Shia, Honey Dad wouldn't stop hitting on Sigourney Weaver. Oh, God. They filmed it up in Ridgecrest, California, which is close to the Sierra Nevada mountains, and is so hot, apparently, like in the 130s and junk, that they would only allow the kids 5 minutes in a hole digging and then get them out of there and cool them off.
Whoa. Time with kid actors is limited as it is.
Yeah.
Only 5 minutes of digging holes?
Yeah, apparently it was pretty bad, and it looks miserable. It said the dust storms that rolled through were absolutely real, that it was just crazy, and it was all cracked, and they needed an authentic-looking dry riverbed, and that's where they went, and that's what they did.
I was noting how many times they had to ADR the outdoor scenes.
Yep.
Just because of wind and dust storms and stuff.
So we want Shia LaBeouf to have opportunities, right? Because when he's on screen and when he's controlled and when he's not getting arrested between takes, he's electric. Supposedly, this is the film that Steven Spielberg saw that inspired him to choose Shia for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
So, Holes is responsible for that abomination of a film?
That abomination of a scene in particular. There are good things, come at me, bro, about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Just not the vine swinging scene.
Right.
But that wasn't, was that Shia LaBeouf's fault?
No, not at all. But again, I like Shia LaBeouf, and I think he's a strong actor and was good in that role. He didn't annoy me for all the other stuff he did. But Steven Spielberg committing to that scene, it makes me think that he thinks the viewers of Indiana Jones in particular are dumb. And that's what we would have wanted to make it thematically similar or identifiable as an Indiana Jones film as part of the franchise. What I'm saying is I found a real appreciation for Holes this time around, and I'm thrilled that this was a clearly constructed for kids mystery that hooked your kids into trying to solve it and piecing the puzzles together. That's awesome.
And that's our discussion of Holes, movie from 2003, available on Disney+. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, share it with your kids. Share it with anyone who likes Holes. Share this podcast with people who love movies. 818-835-0473 or orwhatevermovies@gmail.com is how you contact us. And how you show your love is by rating and reviewing and saying positive things on social media about Or Whatever Movies.
Also, kids, check out Nickel Boys.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This is Coke Zero Sugar. With real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Listen closely. Hear those bubbles? That's the sound of delicious real Coca-Cola taste and zero sugar. Ice cold. Ah. Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste. Zero sugar.
Hey, it's Tim from 50 Years of Music with 50-Year-Old White Guys, the comedy podcast you had no idea you needed. Join Ben, Jeff, and me as we continue our musical road trip back through the years and around the globe. See, just when you thought all white guys were like Joe Rogan, you come across three educators trying to remember when we were cool.
50 Years of Music with 50-Year-Old White Guys.
Electricast. Electricast.